Good morning, Nigeria. A bright new week is here. Today is Wednesday, and so is a trusted companion, Daybreak Live. We are glad to be here this morning to keep you abreast of the day-to-day happenings in the country. I'm Oluwayemi Adelakun.
And my name is Anuluapo Edo. Together we'll do this and make it fun enough for you. Checking all the stories and walk you through stories that shape our nation, from politics to policy, from issues that shake the corridors of power to those that touch everyday lives.
And this morning, coming up first is Daybreak G's is a clash, that's talking about Abuja, a heated face-off between naval officers and FCT Minister Nyesom Wike over alleged illegal development in the capital has sparked questions about authority, enforcement and accountability, which really caused a short in the nation's seat of power. The military or the minister will unpack the drama and its implications.
Then we move right on to Daybreak News, your crisp roundup of top stories across Nigeria and the world, followed by the newspaper review and analysis, where we will be joined by Temitope Ishala, a seasoned public affairs analyst and historian, to help us make sense of today's headlines.
Definitely. And later on, our big story takes a look at a troubling national trend when merit fails, our job rep-tearing threatens the future of public service. From recruitment scandals to backdoor placements, Nigeria's public sector is grappling with a deep-rooted crisis of trust. How did we get here, and what's the cost when competence is replaced by connections?
To help us dig deep into that conversation, we'll be joined by Ignatius Ofino Eboseliume, a respected public affairs analyst and good governance advocate. He will shed light on how job racketeering is eroding meritocracy and what must be done to rebuild faith in our public institutions. That's
one conversation you don't want to miss this morning. And of course, we'll wrap up with Trend Watch, your pulse check on what's buzzing across social media and beyond.
So grab your cup of coffee, or if you'd like, cocoa or cocoa, well, whichever you take. It's time to rise, shine, and stay informed.
Definitely. You're watching Daybreak Live on Dominion Television, where every sunrise makes the stories that matter. And let's get started this morning. Good morning to you,
A beautiful morning to you this morning.
I'm sure you saw the video, yesterday. I mean, it's trending so much, even on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and then, where there was a clash between the Minister of FCT, that's Nyesom Wike, and an officer. What do you make of that video? Because, I think Nigerians are divided on this matter. Some are saying, okay, the officer is wrong on all levels. Some are saying, oh, the minister is also wrong on all levels. Some are even saying he's having a taste of his own medicine. What do you make of that?
Well, I guess it's a perfect conversation starter if you want to think about the Nigerian space. So sometimes we need this kind of relief to just enjoy the political space a bit. If you are from the outside, if you're not in that particular scene, it might be funny to you, because it was funny to a lot of persons, including myself. I find it funny, and I find it, I'm not really surprised as to what unfolded, because that's just one out of many. That's just one of the few ones we get captured on screen, on camera. There are a lot of other events like that that you might not find to see. So just like you're seeing on your screen, it's quite important to note that there are some things that happened during the altercation, the conversation between, Wike and Yerima, who is the naval officer, who was also responding to the fact that they got orders from a superior authority. And if you know anything about the military, it's all about, orders from above. If you get an order from a superior commander or whatever post the person is, you have to follow the order to the core. You would not even stop even when there's anybody trying to stop you. But one of the conversations we should have is the conversations that was witnessed right there. The things they spoke to, we can mentioning some things. But, I just want to cut to the chase quickly, that sometimes when you have an altercation with someone and then you go personal to say stuff like, I'm older than you. In fact, we call it stating the obvious. If you are stating the obvious to say, for example, if I say LFI is older than me, or LFI should come and say, I know I'm older than you, or don't you know I'm older than you, it begs the question of insecurity, right there. It begs the question of threats, like you're threatened for you to make such proclamations. If you're stating the obvious, sometimes your superiority can be questioned. You say, why? That's not necessary. It's obvious to the blind that you are older than this person. So it was saying that, as at the time I was already ruling as a public office holder, you were still in primary school. So, I mean, that was not necessary. But you will not take that away from emotions. When conversations like this erupt, when emotions spike, you can tell that people can say whatsoever thing. But I think it also begs the question of, what should you say in the political space, especially when the camera light is on? I mean, if you are a public office holder, you are not, I think that's my point now. You're not superior to anybody in this world. You, maybe, of course, we would not say that you did not merit whatever you get. It's okay to be a leader, but you should understand that everybody is a leader at some point too. If you understand that people have a right to speak, a right to relate, a right to do a lot of things they want to do, and even have conversations with you, you should take it calm. Most politicians in Nigeria have, at some point messed up in this area. You see a lot of politicians making proclamations against. This was an officer in the uniform, right? It was on uniform. So I'm not sure you should say some of these things, because this is why a lot of people would think this is very important. Because if you say some things and then he gets infuriated and then it's trigger happy. You know what will happen to you? I mean, I'm not saying that is supposed to happen, but if you get into an altercation to that point of saying that someone is a fool, how dare you call an official, a military official that is serving the country, a fool? So some of those words why some are calling for the minister to apologize to the Federal Republic of course, the president, who is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces, and also maybe this guy, to say this is not necessary. Some of the comments you made were not right. I love the fact that the military man stood his stand, and then he said, we're acting on orders, and it was still respectful. And I think that was the way he responded, was something I think I love, and I think I like that kind of thing. But again, moving on from that, it got to a point where a police officer was having conversations with Yerima.
You don't talk when I talk.
So Yerima had to also maybe we call it roar. He had to roar like, "Oh, I'm superior to you." He was telling the officer, "I'm superior to you."
He's right, really.
Of course, because in the ranking of the military,
he's right.
If he has a 5-star, I think he was saying he's a 5-star general or something. Was trying to put out his CV too.
I don't think he's 5-star.
But he mentioned something like he's also someone.
He's a lieutenant.
So
the record.
if you want to check this now, if you want to disgrace such a person of high profile in the military, in front of the police officers and also his inferior colleagues, I mean, not inferior in this sense, but the colleagues that are not us, and they are right there, and you want to make a public shame of him, I'm not sure some will take it more than this, right? I'm not saying they will do anything that I'm professing that they should do, but I'm saying there could be a way they might respond emotionally to this issue. One of the things that we are going to take away from here is probably to educate even public office holders that you are not superior to any Nigerian. And an average Nigerian is just as important as you are. We understand that you are serving the nation, and we'll give you the respect. We accord you the honor due to you. But don't take it far beyond where you should take it. If that kind of thing continues to happen, it's a shame to the office, to the public office. It's a shame to the Nigerian government. It's a shame to the political space, and even generally too. It might affect every other facet. Okay. So if we have leaders are supposed to be examples, to every other person. So if you have leaders, you should have them educated to understand what they should say to an average. Because this is a military man. Imagine what Wike would have said to an average civilian. So I saw some people there too trying to make a statement to say, don't you know he's the minister of the FCT? Don't you know you should not talk to him? Like the guy was saying, I'm not even talking to this guy anyway. I'm just expressing that we are on orders and we are following orders strictly. We are not doing anything, sir. We will try to serve you if there's. It was saying that they will get maybe a memo or something about the land. Wike was saying many things, but I think I just did not like the fact that Wike made some comment to that guy that were very, very spurious. There were comments that were not supposed to be made to an average human being,
Okay.
because you don't call a person a fool. It's even wrong to say someone is a fool, not to even talk about the person being in a military uniform. I mean, that's exactly my take on this.
Okay, I think you're very spot on. You said a lot. I'm trying to remember all that you said so I can, speak on them. But let's start from anger in the first place. You see, when you're angry as a person, if care is not taken, you might say wrong things that you later regret to say that, how I wish I didn't say these things, in my moment of anger. So Wiki was really angry, and I think the FCT officers that followed him, I don't think they made, the matter, much better because, they were trying to make the issue to be so serious. I mean, it was messy yesterday, let's be very clear on that. It was really messy. And then let me also go back to the issue of education. You said, education should help us be better. Wiki is learned, is a lawyer. If anyone, I think we should know better on how to treat people, in issues, when it comes to issues like this. So it's a very sad situation that happened. But then I also love to commend, A.M. Yerima, who is a lieutenant in the Nigerian Navy. And I also heard something that, his father used to be a retired general in the army. And so you need to see the applause on Twitter, on Instagram yesterday to say that, we need to find this man, we need to help him do this because, he helped us put Wiki in this place. So these are the questions that all of us to ask. Is a military officer, or let me say military officers, are they allowed to guard a piece of land or a property according to the law? That's my first question. And then going back to how Wiki treated this guy, I don't think he was right because it got to a point, Wiki said, you are a fool. And the man said, I'm not a fool, sir. He was still adding sir to it. He said, I'm not a fool. So things could have gotten really worse that yesterday, but I'm glad that, he ended that way. And then I think at the end of the day, Wiki had to leave the scene. So he now said something. Wiki said, who are those trying to intimidate me with soldiers? The fact that you guys are guarding this place. See, for Wiki to have gone there at that time and then he met officers there, it means that they got an intel that it was coming. A lot has been going on in FCT in Abuja concerning land grabbing. A lot of people have accused Wiki to say that he's taking lands from the people, selling it to people. There was even a time they said he gave some lands to his sons, and then he said, "Are my sons Ghanaians? They have rights to land." So these are the issues. A lot is going on in FCTA, and the tension is so severe. So right now, he also mentioned something that a former naval or vice admiral, maybe he's the one that owns that property. We really cannot say until maybe investigations are done, and then we can tell that this land belongs to this man. But Yerima, the naval officer, mentioned something. He said, "I'm a man of integrity. This property is owned legally. You can make the necessary investigations that you want to make." So I want to believe that after this scene, all those who are responsible for why this happened, they will do the necessary investigations to let the public know what really happened. But then I don't think Wiki was right in that sense to have called the man those names. It could have been settled amicably. And Yerima is so young, and then I think he respected Wiki to an extent to say that, sir, I think he told him severally, I'm working on orders. And then when it comes to the military, he has to do with chain of command. For instance, now, if someone should give an order, maybe a 3-star general, it might take a 4-star general to override that order. So we can make calls, because if you watch, I watched the video twice, it's about 6 minutes. We can try to make some calls, but then nothing happened, because there's a way they do their things in the military. So it's quite different from what happens, honestly.
I recall Wiki saying, talk to the CDS, that's the Chief of Defense Staff, was saying to the CDS, so the guy spoke and then they explained this point. The calmness around that guy's operation and then his conversation is something to really commend. It's laudable. And I think for one, that can serve as an example to every other person too. Don't harass a public, or maybe a policeman or a soldier or whoever is serving the country in that wise. It's very important that we educate. I was talking about education, and it's funny how that everybody is an illiterate, but only in certain subjects. So for someone to be a learned fellow does not mean he has all the knowledge in the world. If I sit with a learned fellow and we engage in a conversation on science, he'll probably falter.
But we expect more from people who are learned.
That's exactly what we are trying to pass to the. Yes, because we expect, there's an expectation for public office holders. There are certain things you cannot do because of the office. It's not because your personality cannot do it. It's because you just cannot do it because of the office you hold. You are supposed to be an example. You're supposed to be. I think that calls for the question of leadership and politics in the country. I think there's a deep contrast between them, and it should not be so. Every political office holder should be a leader. at every front. And a leader means that you don't disrespect people just because they are not on your level, just because they are not in your social class, they are not in your profile, they are not in your age range.
Let me shock you. You see, that's why I said, you see, anger is a very bad thing. You see, if you can be reasonable when hungry, I tell you, you can actually overcome a lot of things. Have you seen some situations where on the road, sometimes maybe you're in the bus or maybe in the cab, and then maybe a Mikra will just eat maybe a very expensive car, and the man will come out to say, do you know who I am? Kiniko, and then it gets so messy. So that's what happens. You know, but when if you're not careful when angry, you boast beyond what you're even supposed to do, and then you mess yourself up, and then even people are supposed to respect you, they are like, you don't deserve respect.
I agree with you quite honestly, but there's something in leadership that we say all feelings are welcome, but not all behaviors are welcome. It's okay to say you feel this way. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to do whatever, but the behavior that might come from that is not welcome. We can welcome your feelings, but that anger, that behavior might not be welcome. If you say you're angry and then you shoot a man, you probably rot in jail, or you probably have yourself,
I mean, you're not supposed to behave like that.
So that's exactly why we call out these people.
Honestly, I don't think these 2 hours can be enough to talk about what can happen when you're angry and you cannot manage your emotions. And one more thing that Wike said is that he said you could have killed everyone if not because of the Minister of Defense that spoke to me. Why is it that the Minister of Defense could not stop the soldiers from guarding that place? Why didn't they allow Wike in after he spoke to him? That speaks to the fact of to the issue of command now. So Wike, at the end of the day, had to leave the scene, regardless of the fact that he spoke to some person. So he could have left that place with his respect and ego intact. But there a lot of damage happened, at the scene yesterday.
Lastly, let me just also point this out too, that the eyes are watching here. Whatever happens to Yerima, people will do question, because we need to also consider these things, because there could be. We will not get into the core of that, but we are hoping that nothing bad happens to Yerima. Just there's no, it's a political. I don't want them to take. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. They should not take this politically, because if they go by the politics of this, we might not like what will happen.
I don't think Yerima is a very. I don't know how to explain it now.
You don't know politics.
No, I know, but then let's be positive. I mean, this is a democratic system of government. Just because that happened, the highest that will happen is, okay, they will call him and then maybe one person will apologize to the other person. I don't think anything bad should happen to him, of course, really.
That should be our prayers.
Looking at his person, the guy stood his ground to say, I'm not going to allow this happen, so I don't think anything bad should happen to him. But Nigerians are saying, should anything happen to Yerima, Wike, we hear from us.
That's the point. I think that's enough to go around now. Let's go over to something else, right?
Yeah, definitely. Let's go over to weather reports this morning, and allow us start from Ibadan this morning. Let's start from Ibadan. Weather this morning feels like 29 degrees Celsius in Ibadan. Later this morning is expected to be around 29 degrees Celsius as well, partly cloudy, 4%. In the afternoon, 31 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, around 17%. In the evening, 25 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, around 8%. And overnight, 24 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, around 11%. That's what we have for Ibadan this morning.
And of course, from Ibadan out to Lagos State, Nigeria, the weather feels like 31 degrees Celsius. And of course, slight variations across morning to night, 29 degrees Celsius in Lagos later in the morning, with the promise of showers. Also, showers expected in the afternoon hours of the day in Lagos State at 30 degrees Celsius. Also, it drops down by 2 degrees in the evening to 28 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, and overnight 27 degrees Celsius, dropping by 1 degree as well. And then there's a promise of showers overnight in Lagos State, Nigeria today.
All right, let's cross over to Ekiti. Weather this morning feels like 22 degrees Celsius. Later this morning is expected to be around 27 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, around 4%. In the afternoon, 30 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, around 21%. In the evening, 24 degrees Celsius, mostly clear, around 7%. Overnight, 21 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, around 12%. That's what we have for Ekiti this morning.
And from Ekiti now to Abeokuta North, that's Ogun State, Nigeria. The weather feels like 25 degrees Celsius. Later in the morning, the rises by 5 degrees to 30 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy in Abeokuta. In the afternoon, it rises by 2 degrees as well to 32 partly cloudy also in the afternoon. Evening, 26 degrees Celsius. What a sharp decline. And it's partly cloudy. And overnight, it's 25 degrees Celsius, also mostly cloudy in Abeokuta, North Ogun State today.
All right, let's cross over to Ilori International Airport, Kwara. Weather this morning feels like 25 degrees Celsius, and later this morning is expected to be around 29 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 1%. In the afternoon, 35 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy around 2%. In the evening, 27 degrees Celsius, clear around 3%. And overnight, 24 degrees Celsius, cloudy around 8%. That's what we have for Ilori this morning.
And from Ilorin now to Osogbo, Osun State, Nigeria, the weather is cloudy at 24 degrees Celsius averagely, and later it rises in the morning to 29 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy as well, also partly cloudy, rising by 3 degrees Celsius to 32 in the afternoon, and later it drops down averagely to 25 degrees Celsius and partly cloudy, and overnight 24 degrees Celsius, also cloudy in Osogbo, Osun State today.
All right, let's cross over to Port Harcourt Rivers this morning. Weather feels like 21 degrees Celsius. Later is expected to be around 26 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, around 17%. In the afternoon, 26 degrees Celsius, thunderstorms around 61%. In the evening, 22 degrees Celsius, partly cloudy, around 18%. And overnight, 21 degrees Celsius, mostly cloudy, around 16%. That's what we have for Port Harcourt Rivers this morning.
And from Port Harcourt now to Suleja, the Niger State, of course, the largest state in the country. The weather is fair at 22 degrees Celsius, and it rises later in the morning to 29 degrees Celsius, mostly sunny, also rising by 5 degrees Celsius, also sunny in the afternoon part of that particular region, and 25 degrees Celsius is quite clear in the evening, and then overnight it's 22 degrees Celsius, mostly clear in Suleja, Niger State today.
All right, let's cross over to FCT Abuja, where the heat is so intense. Weather this morning feels like 22 degrees Celsius. Later is expected to be about 29 degrees Celsius, mostly sunny, around 0%. In the afternoon, 33 degrees Celsius, sunny, around 0% as well. In the evening, 25 degrees Celsius, clear, around 1%. And overnight, 22 degrees Celsius, mostly clear, around 3%. That's what we have for Abuja FCT this morning.
And from Abuja now to far north, that's Kaduna North now. Kaduna State, the weather feels like 19 degrees Celsius, quite sunny if you ask me. Now, the morning part of the region is 29 degrees Celsius. It's partly cloudy, and then it rises by 4 degrees Celsius also in the afternoon to 33 degrees Celsius, quite sunny. And evening is quite clear as well, 22 degrees Celsius. And overnight, 18 degrees Celsius is what it drops to, and it's quite clear, the weather in Kaduna North today.
Let's cross over to Kano Municipal. Weather this morning feels like 15 degrees Celsius. Later this morning is expected to be around 29 degrees Celsius, sunny around 0%. In the afternoon, 33 degrees Celsius, sunny 0% as well. In the evening, 23 degrees Celsius, clear around 0%. And overnight, 18 degrees Celsius, clear around 0%. That's what we have for Kano Municipal this morning. Well, that's how far we can go. First, I want to thank you for being a part of this segment. We need to take a short break, and when we come back, we take the news. Do well to follow us across all social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X at Dominion Cast. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB Van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB Van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
Hello and welcome. This is Daybreak News on Dominion Television. My name is Anuluakpo Idu. President Bola Tinubu has assured Siemens Energy, the technical contractor handling the Presidential Power Initiative (PPI), of the government's full commitment to improving the country's electricity supply and enhancing livelihoods. During a meeting at the State House with the delegation from the contractor, led by the Managing Director of Middle East and Africa, Dietmar Siersdorfer, Tinubu emphasized that the power sector remains central to stimulating the economy, according to a statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Ononuga. The President also directed the expansion of some major transformer substations from 2 to 3 phases to boost the country's power supply. Similarly, Power Minister Adebayo Adelabu added that the country has achieved significant infrastructure upgrades under the pilot phase and that they are already impacting grid stability and reliability across the country. Meanwhile, tension over President Bola Tinubu's nomination of Abdullahi Ramat as chairman of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, has escalated as protesters stormed the National Assembly, urging the Senate to conclude the process without delay. Demonstrators comprising Ramad's supporters, civil society groups, and rights activists marched around the parliamentary complex, chanting solidarity songs and waving placards. And this follows last month's decision by the Senate to step down Ramad's confirmation, despite his successful screening by the Senate Committee on Power, chaired by Senator Eyinaya Abaribe. The protesters appealed to the Senate leadership not to yield to the machinations of their antagonists, urging that Ramat be confirmed. Consequently, the Senate vowed to compel him to provide evidence in court, maintaining that it would not be pressured into confirming any nominee under a cloud of public concern. The Federal High Court in Abuja has restrained the People's Democratic Party (PDP) from holding a scheduled national convention pending the hearing and determination of a substantive suit filed by ex-governor Sule Lamido of Jigawa. Judge Peter Lifu also restrained the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) from monitoring, supervising, and recognizing the convention pending the hearing and determination of the suit. The judge held that Mr. Lamido's application was meritorious and succeeded, while alluding to the early judgment delivered by Justice James Omotosho on 31st of October, which stopped PDP from holding the convention and said it would be in the interest of justice to grant Lamido's request. Meanwhile, things got heated between the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, and officials of the capital city when some soldiers stopped the former Rivers State Governor and his entourage from gaining access to a land in the Gajewa district of the area. After an intense session with the military officials, the FCT minister accused the officers of acting with impunity, arguing that there is no legal document in the FCTA's record allocating such land to them. Despite the minister's claims, the military officials contend that they would not vacate the land as they are working based on directives by a former chief of naval staff, Vice Admiral Zubairu Gambo.
The man took the Arab, will not allow going on chief of naval staff, and then you to carry land.
Sir, everything was acquired legally.
Will you stop that? Will you stop that?
Sir, I'm an officer, I have integrity.
Shut up, you are not good,
sir.
sir.
I will not shut up.
Will you get out?
Sir, I won't shut up. Sir,
I was in school, you're not in school.
Sir, you can't shut
Will you
me
keep
up.
quiet?
You can't
Get
shut
a
me
big
up, sir.
fool.
I'm not
You are big fool.
I'm not a
You
fool,
think you
sir.
can shoot anybody like that?
Sir, I'm not
You
a
are big
fool.
fool. Are you
I am not a fool, sir.
As for the time I
Don't call me a
graduated,
fool.
you are in primary school.
I'm acting on orders.
Take for which
You can't
order?
call me a fool.
And this, you will see whether you will not live here.
Sir, you can't call me a fool.
You are putting up your
I'm an
mouth.
officer. I'm not a fool, sir.
Okay, I will have so corrupt. You will have killed everybody here.
No, we won't kill anybody. We won't kill anybody. We are acting on orders.
The minister, who is unhappy that due process was not followed, questioned the actions of the military officers, lamenting that no one is above the laws of the land. And now in Oyo State, where residents of Ibadan have intensified their protest against the proposed expansion of the Ibadan Circular Road Corridor, appealing to the Oyo State government to halt any plan to extend the project beyond the initially approved 150 meter. The call was renewed yesterday after property owners from 6 local government areas earlier staged a peaceful protest and demonstration to draw public attention to their plight. The demonstration escalated as the aggrieved residents blocked major highways around Challenge and along the Warroad axis, causing serious traffic gridlock and disrupting movement for several hours.
This peaceful mega protest is not political. It does not have any element of politics. We are protecting our properties and we are appealing to the government through the governor to please do the circular road and leave the corridor. The circular road has been acquired in 2005 and most of us have been there before circular road. Some even came after circular road and saw the pillar of the circular road before buying land, before erecting building. So we don't have anything to do with politics. We did not collect money from anybody. No more.
Originally conceived to ease traffic congestion and spur economic growth around the Oyo State capital, the Ibadan Circular Road project has continued to generate controversy, especially over issues of land acquisition, compensation, and community displacement. And now we move on to business, where premium motor spirit PMS supply is set to boom nationwide as fresh shipments recorded between 10th and 11th November 2025 reviewed upbeat activity across Lagos and Port Harcourt data. Data obtained from petroleum price showed that supply maintained active berthing schedules during the 2 days, ensuring steady PMS and AGO supplies ahead of the mid-November trading window. Analysts note that the consistent vessel traffic reflects effective coordination between private depots and refinery-linked product chains, particularly as Dangote Refinery continues to support independent marketers with refined cargoes. According to report, the latest price cut comes amid the federal government 15% import tariff on refined fuel. And in sports, the Falconets have won the 2025 WAFU B Under-20 Girls Cup title following a 3-0 win over Ghana in Benin Republic on Tuesday. The Nigerian girls scored through Ake Koromoe, Alaba Olabiyi, and Ramotalai Karim to seal the victory for the Falconets, who went into the match needing just 3 points to seal the title. The Falconets will afterwards switch focus to the 2026 FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifiers against Senegal in February of 2026. You can visit our website on www.dominion.org.ng to watch us live and interact with us. You can also follow us across our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn at Dominion Broadcast, and on X at Dominion Cast. And that's Daybreak News. I am Anoluapo Ido. Thank you for watching.
Live from the heart of the action. Welcome to the nerve center of Next Level Broadcasting.
This is the OB van, where the studio meets the street.
Equipped with cutting-edge cameras, crystal clear audio, real-time switching, and broadcast control, we don't just capture moments, we deliver the experience live.
Anywhere, anytime, from stadiums to red carpets, breaking news to buzzing festivals, weddings, birthdays, and all sorts of ceremonies. We bring the world to your screen in real time.
It's not just a van, it's a complete mobile production house, a command center, a broadcast beast.
This is more than a broadcast. This is the OB van difference. Live, loud, limitless.
Ready to go live? Like never before. Book the OB van today and take your event to the world. One powerful broadcast at a time.
To book, call 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Email marketing@dominion.org.ng or visit our socials on Instagram @Dominion Broadcast.
Dominion Broadcast, your channel of choice.
I might want to ask you first if you have seen a naked protest before, because we might get to see one soon enough, especially as we have it on the print today. Welcome to this segment of newspaper headlines and analysis, where we check into the stories that are making the rounds across the nation, Nigeria. We check the high point and the low point of every story, and we have a conversation on them, if time permits. Of course, we check into the Daily Times newspaper this morning, and that particular caption on the front page is ringing so loud in my head. You can see pensioners plan naked protest, give federal government November 24 deadline. A big caption. Plan naked protest by pensioners. I mean, not a good one. We understand why they are doing this, but it's also not a good one to wait for. So the federal government better hurry up to answer to this. Now, that's on page 8 of the Daily Times newspaper. Still tracking all the stories. Insecurity. If you can't deploy bullets, resign. Adebayo tells Tinubu. If you can't deploy bullets, resign. That's what Adebayo is telling Tinubu on Daily Times newspaper this morning. Tinubu's administration acquired $801 million worth of military assets from United States in 18 months. And that's coming from a report, IMPI report, right there. Also a story to check out this morning. Wike military clash over alleged illegal land in Abuja. Also something to check out on the Daily Times newspaper this morning. We'll still get into that conversation. Soludo's defection to APC is imminent. Orji Kalu has revealed that Soludo's defection to APC is soon to come. Perhaps yes, perhaps no. But time, they say, we tell. Now, CSO's 115% fuel tariff will worsen hardship, trigger price surge. Also something to check out this morning. Now, also in Rivers State, the last slide on that particular story is Rivers local government polls. Legacy group candidates to appeal court ruling. Appeal yet again. Now, moving on from the Daily Times newspaper to see what other stories are saying on the Nation newspaper. For one, I love listening to what the nation is saying to the nation. I mean, the Nation newspaper to the nation Nigeria. And of course, right on the Nation newspaper this morning, quietly written, boldly written on the front page is convention. Another courts others throw PDP into disarray. That's the big story. Another court order throws PDP into disarray on the Nation newspaper. And this is talking about the PDP convention that's scheduled to hold 15th, 16th November in Ibadan, your state capital. And of course, we're still seeing a lot of reactions from this. And even just yesterday, also, there was a court sitting that ruled that convention should not hold, also demanding that INEC should not go there to witness, to observe, or to do anything with that convention, because there's a particular ruling from Abuja. Justice Motosho once said that, and then Justice Akintola in Oyo State, brought out another ex parte order, and now we see this like the next one we are seeing now. Just Peter Lifu also in Abuja made that particular call, that prayer, of course, in the courthouse yesterday. That is also something to check out as well. We'll get into all of this. Judgment tomorrow in Lamido's Abuja case. Ibadan court to hear another suit today. That's exactly what people are doing. Well, what we're doing now is keeping our fingers as crossed as possible, because there seems to be unfolding and unfolding and unfolding of events right on that convention in Ibadan, especially about the PDP. Now, moving on to other stories still on the Nation newspaper, you see Jarigbe's defection takes APC to 76 senators. Anyway, some have also said there's a chance for a one-party state, but others have believed there's no possibility. But what do we stand to know? Time, they say, we tell. As we focus on this, Customs intercept 29.4 billion cocaine at Lagos Port. 29.4 billion naira worth of cocaine in Lagos Port. Not a good one, but a good one that they caught them. Not a good one that we have this much. Anyway, NUPRC to begin 2025 licensing round 1 by December 1. That's also something to check out this morning. APC to Adeleke, call down on partying, focus on governance. I think this is one of the few persons speaking to the issue of the dancing governor, like some have alluded or called, the governor of Osun State, Adeleke, that he should call down on partying and focus on governance. Anyway, that is something to check out this morning, right on the print this morning. Of course, Blueprint newspaper is where I land down. And on Blueprint newspaper, as PDP convention gets fresh court order, 3 conflicting judgments in 2 weeks may attract NJC's wrath. That is also something about the PDP, People's Democratic Party convention, that's been scheduled and that has been in the on the table of discourse. It's been up and down. We've seen yes, have it, no, don't have it, and all of that. But let's see if we would have it eventually. Erring judges risk sanction. Situation dangerous. Lawyers abusing judicial process should face LPDC. And that's coming from a senior advocate of Nigeria and the association of them. Now, Senate rejects NNPCL's explanation on unaccounted 210 trillion naira. Now, there has to be emphasis on that amount because it's quite a number. If you consider that to be a thing, Senate rejects NNPCL's explanation on unaccounted 210 trillion naira. That's the Nigerian money. Anyway, but moving on from that story, still talking sports on the Blueprint newspaper. The Blueprint has the story on sports playoffs. Super Eagles boycott training over unpaid allowances. And some have said the Super Eagles are still owed since 2019. Such a gory case, it's an indictment. But what we say is whoever has been found culpable in this should actually go for it. Now, moving on, Tinubu, Shetima back Nakon on affordable, successful 2026 Hajj. And that is also the story. We brought it out yesterday. If you follow the news, you can still check up on our Facebook and YouTube platform to see the stories right there about NACOM, how the federal government has intervened to help people who intend to travel for Hajj. Federal government has subsidized in their way. And of course, that's also something to check out on the Blueprint newspaper this morning. Now, moving on from that story, no governor, local government chair can complain of funds on that Tinubu. You want to know who said that, and that's the governor of Lagos State, Sanwo-Olu, came out to say that there's not a single governor that can complain of insufficient funds, that can complain of not having enough allocation from the federal government. Because we also understand this as something that happened when the moment the removal of fuel subsidy came on board, so many things happened. In fact, some states received more than 50% of what they used to get, and now they have money. So that's what somebody is saying, that no, you cannot complain that you don't have money, because we know how much is being disbursed to every state now as allocation to every state because of the fuel subsidy removal and some other monies that are being sent to them by the federal government allocation. That's exactly the story. But what then is the case? If you say you have problems with money and over time the federal government increases the allocation to your state, why would you still complain of the same when you should do what you should do? Or where's the money going? Anyway, that's for another conversation. Now, moving on from that story, NDLEA launches manhunt with United States, DEA, and UK. That's also a collaboration right there. Something we are seeing and we've been seeing, and we should keep seeing, because collaboration can help, check out some of these issues in the country, Nigeria. Moving on from that as well, now to Daily Independent newspaper this morning. Nigerians' health at risk as toxic chemicals permeate food supply. That's the big, bold caption on the Daily Independent newspaper this morning. I want to check out this morning. It's quite a big one. Nigeria's health at risk as toxic chemicals permeate food supply. There's also that conversation of GMOs, genetically modified organisms, that others have said that a group of people or a group of leaders are trying to bring into the country, and then everybody must be aware. All of the conversation is still on. And while we're having that, we're still having another conversation on Nigeria's health being at risk. And that's something to check out for. But meanwhile, the PDP story is being captioned this way on Daily Independent newspaper. It says, again, court halts PDP National Convention. Just as you can see on your very screen. Judgment on substantive suits is today, I guess, as we also have that also breaking on Daily Independent newspaper. Stakeholders fought security policies, one of rising human rights abuses. Stakeholders fought security policies, one of rising human rights abuses. That is also something on the Daily Independent newspaper this morning. Of course, we just took that particular story on the left corner. If you see, tensions deepens in reps after all this session. That's on page 7 of Daily Independent newspaper. And anyone doubting genocide in Nigeria should go live in Plateau, Benue. That's coming from Bolaji Akinyemi. We're still on this issue, and then we hope to get to the end of it, or to get the better of the story someday, somehow. Now, Sanwo-Olu at Arewa House says insecurity will be defeated. That is also something. I hope this is a prayer, or if it's not a prayer, it's a wish that is backed up by the willpower. But anyway, time will tell. All set for editors' conference in Abuja. Tinubu governors, ministers, media leaders to attend opening ceremony, and all of that. You might want to track up as it unfolds much further. Panic selling across rocks Nigerian equities as CGT fears trigger 5% tumble. Also something to check out this morning on the business side of things in the country, Nigeria. Talking economics. Now, Senate confirms Agbaje as new PENCOM chairman. Also, another confirmation coming from the Senate House. Also, this morning, something to talk about, to harp on a bit. Now, moving on from that particular paper to see the Guardian newspaper, if the Guardian will guide us into some stories. And you want to know what's on the Guardian newspaper this morning, I think is of interest to you, and it's still talking politics. Ambition, legal battles stall PDP convention. Threatening 2027 prospect. That is a write-up on the Guardian newspaper. Page 26 is where to catch up on that story for more details. It's about the PDP saga. If you have a chance to get to see the Guardian newspaper, it has the picture of all the leaders, should we say embattled leaders. You see Nyesom Wike, you see the governor for your state, Engineer Seyi Makinde, and you see Damagun, you see Fintiri, you see quite a number of persons also. Yes, as you have it right now on your screen, you see their faces. Ambition, legal battle stall PDP convention, threatening 2027 prospect. Meanwhile, Senate rebukes NNPC, rejects explanation on unaccounted 210 trillion naira. Quite a number to consider this morning. Now, Nigeria eyes 2.8 mbpd oil output as NUPRC begins licensing round. Also something to check out. Federal government will suspend planned CGT over market concerns. That's exactly on the business side of things. If you are interested in that business story, check it out this morning. Wicked military officers feud over disputed FCT property. That story is still breaking and making the rounds. Now, on genocide, there's something to check out. Nigerians urge Tinubu to go harder on terrorists and end bloodshed. That's what Nigerians are clamoring for today in the papers. As you can see, NAFDAC outlaws production of sale of sachet alcoholic beverages. You want to know? I mean, a lot of people have emotions when you call this kind of stories. I remember one time I had a conversation with someone and we're discussing how the NAFDAC body is saying that they want to ban the use of sachet. In fact, what they call it in the local parlance is kwelebe. If you know what I mean, it's kwelebe. So, you know, some would have other names for it. There are a lot of names coming to my head right now, but for one of time, I cannot call them. Now, NAFDAC is saying no to that every person that is found, you know, culpable or selling or buying or transacting in that would be, you know, called to book. Now, there's a ban, an outright ban on sachet. You know, that's a alcoholic beverage sachet that we see around. So, you know, sometimes even when I traveled to a particular place, I think it was another region of this country, and I discovered that it wasn't just peculiar to the Southwest. I saw some other places too. In fact, they had different names. You see a lot of names that we cannot even call out. So sometimes I wonder, because if you see some of the inscriptions on those sachets, you see pictures that are not supposed to be in the public domain. You still see the pictures. In fact, they're trying to show you that this is for energy. This is just to get energy while you are doing whatever you're doing. But it's not even proper in a sense too. Some of them don't have regulations as to the content of the alcohol that should be inside. Some of them have been, you know, they've mixed a lot of things, just like some would say a science student kind of mixture, mixing different things just to have a sachet. So that's what NAFDAC is calling to say, okay, hey, there should be a stop to this thing, and that's what they are saying. But the question has been, can it really be stopped? Because others, I've spoken to somebody before that said that is his, you know, his go-to option anytime he's feeling bad or depressed. So that's like his help. He always has 2 or 3 in his pockets, and I say, you know what, NAFDAC is coming for you, or NDLE is coming for you. But now that's the big story. NAFDAC outlaws production and sale of sachet alcoholic beverages. That's what we have also on the Guardian newspaper this morning. What should we harp a bit on the wiki and the military issue? We are still seeing it unfold. So many Nigerians have come out to say this should not happen, especially at this time and age when you have to have altercations and you could still not control your emotions. We understand that human beings are emotional. We should express emotions sometimes, most times, if we want to. But I think, like I mentioned earlier, one thing is certain: your feelings, your emotions are welcome, but your behaviors are not welcome. In fact, let's put it better. All feelings, all emotions are welcome, but not all behaviors are welcome. So even if you claim to be angry, if you see a gun or someone holding a gun, can you face the person and say, shoot me? If you see, you know, just say you are very angry now, and then you go to the zoo and say you want to enter into the lion's den. I mean, what you see, that's why we have to call to attention that whatever you do, even when you claim to be angry, you should do that within the confines of, you know, morality, the confines of, you know, logicality, as it were. Don't just do things haphazardly and think you would go scot-free for every action. Because if we excuse the feelings, we will not excuse the behavior. That's why we have courts, that's why we have prisons, that's why we have police officers for any wrongdoing. That's exactly the story. And I'll take the last print this morning. That's Daily Sun newspaper. Daily Sun newspaper has some stories that is of interest to you, I'm sure. And of course, it's of interest to me as well. And this is coming from the Army Chief. Military will defend Nigeria's sovereignty. That's coming from the Army Chief. Reps raised the alarm over existence of 1,894 illegal borders. I mean, how do you have such borders? How porous can a nation be, or how more porous can we be if we have 1,894 illegal borders? Anyway, this calls for attention. Now, Workers' Union condemns abduction of 6 defense ministry directors on Abuja to Lokoja highway. So while the military is saying that we will defend, sovereignty, Nigeria's sovereignty, there seems to be a kidnap case of military or workers' union on Abuja to Lokoja highway. Quite unfortunate, something you might say. Under Tinubu, governors can't lament lack of funds. Yeah, we said that already. And of course, maybe just to harp a bit on terrorism, Kanu asks courts to stop November 20 judgment. That is also on Daily Sun newspaper. The down part of that print you see on terrorism charge. Kanu asks courts to stop November 20 judgment. That story is of interest on Daily Sun newspaper. Now, federal government leased 1 trillion naira MOFI real estate fund on NGX. That is also something to check out this morning. The way Daily Sun takes the story of ESM Wike and the naval officer is that Traman, as naval officer, stops Wike FCT officials from accessing Abuja land. Minister accuses ex-CNS of land grabbing and intimidation. That's what the governor said, that nobody can intimidate me. And that was exactly the case right there. That is it a case of intimidation, or is something that should have been settled without throwing emotions or spiking emotions? But that's exactly the story. But just to have a bit on the military defending Nigeria's sovereignty, a group of persons have also said to this that why was it that it was when Donald Trump made a comment about genocide that the security seemed to be beefed up in the country? Because we've seen a lot of times where there's kidnap here, there's banditry there, there's abduction there. So all of this is happening at the same time, and it seems the government is folding its arms, not doing so much. But now, Donald Trump came on board to say, you know what, I would have envisioned. And then there seems to be a lot of movements, the NSA, National Security Advisor, and a lot of persons just came on to say, oh yes, we are working. And everybody's trying to put their nose to books, trying to put their necks to the work. And everybody's trying to do one thing or the other. Do we need an external person to tell us what to do as public office holders in the country? I mean, that is also something to check out this one. It's quite a number of things, and it's still talking engagement with Donald Trump. Diplomatic engagement yielding results. That's what the federal government is now saying about Trump, that diplomatic engagements are already yielding results with, international bodies, and that's talking about the United States in particular. So there seems to be that conversation of the U.S. versus, or should we say, U.S. in collaboration with Nigeria. Now, federal government said they are engaging quite well the diplomatic relations so as not to soil the international relations or collaboration between the two countries. So I remember it was the former president of this country, Olusegun Obasanjo, was saying just a couple of days ago that when he was the head of the state, when he was the president, there was no interference that could have happened during his time, because he would not even allow for that. He even alluded to some of the incidents that happened when he was president, that he said he's always in control, that he would never relinquish control to an external force. Of course, if he expressed also to youth that youth should stand up. He was addressing the issue of the fact that some have also said, there's a bill currently in Nigeria that not too young to run. But he kept mentioning the fact that the people who made the bill are 90 years. He was referring to Paul Biya of Cameroon and some other old presidents in Africa, to say that the people that are saying you should also, guys, rise up. If you are a young person, don't think you are too young to stand up, because you need to act now and act fast. He was saying they should, be disruptive. But he said that in a good faith, to say be disruptive but in a good manner. Be politically disruptive, stand up for what is yours, stand up for your rights, because no one will fight for you. You have to fight for yourself. That's exactly what the former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, came out to say on the news with regards to this whole issue. Now, Badaru, Anyim, and Arewa are having a think tank, and then they said Tinubu's reforms is winning North. So sometimes I think this is where the question is. A lot of people would ask questions when government bodies, government institutions, and government parastatals, and even government officials themselves come out to say that we are winning the war against banditry, we are winning the war against insecurity. But how well do we see that? Because if you say it's something to say, it's another thing to do. We see the sayings, we don't see the doings. So some are calling for more. I know, yes, we cannot disprove the fact that the military is doing so much to, to curb all of this insecurity in the country. But we can also not say that the cases are not surging, because we see today that the military comes out to say we've been able to nab 86 kidnappers, to be able to nab 100 and something terrorists. But again, tomorrow morning, the next story you see is that insurgents, another 70-something kidnapped in the place, or you see the story of Boko Haram wreaking havoc in places, and you wonder, but we just celebrated yesterday that we had victory. But maybe it's also a concern to say sometimes we win the war to lose the battle, or sometimes we lose battles to win the war. But whichever the case is, what is more paramount is that the lives of Nigerians is just as important. And so we must also cater to the lives of the people in the country. I think that's one thing some nations of the world will not joke with. They don't joke with the lives and properties of their people. So they are always upbeat about if an average person is taken hostage in, for example, the United States does not mind deploying so much artillery, weaponry, arsenal, and officials to that effect. So that's exactly what we see across border, and it should be something we should also keep doing in the country, Nigeria. And of course, so many other stories still to come. But of course, if you stay with us, we have our news bulletins. Of course, stay tuned on this channel. Facebook, we're live, and on Instagram, we're also live, and YouTube, everywhere you see us across board. Now, this is a good place to draw the curtains on this particular segment while we take on the big story. And coming up next is the big story with Yemi Adelapo. Stay with us and don't go nowhere after this break.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast, and on X at DominionCast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
When you destroy merit, you destroy the very ladder that lifts a nation. Good morning and welcome to Big Story on Daybreak Live. I'm Oluwayemi Adelako, and today we are confronting a truth about Nigeria's public service, a system that was once built on excellence but now stands threatened by corruption and favoritism. Our focus this morning is on a compelling topic: when merit fails, how job racketeering threatens the future of public service. In recent years, reports of recruitment scandals, job slot sales, and political patronage have raised troubling questions about fairness, competence, and the value of hard work in Nigeria's civil and public institutions. When jobs are bought instead of earned, governance suffers. But beyond the outrage, what's really at stake for the future of public administration, and can the system be fixed? Joining me to unpack this issue is Afina Ebeselime, a public affairs analyst and researcher who has studied governance patterns and public sector reforms across Nigeria. Together, we'll trace how meritocracy began to erode, what it has cost us, and how genuine reforms can still save the public. Stay with us this morning. This is Big Story. Welcome on board, Afina.
Good morning, Jimmy.
It's good to have you this morning.
I'm delighted to be here this morning.
All right, so let's start from the basics now. When we say job racketeering in Nigeria, what exactly do we mean?
When we are talking about job racketeers are syndicates who exploit desperate job seekers. That's one thing you must know about them. Desperate job seekers. And often promise their victim with fake job vacancies. Now, when we're talking about job racketeering in this country, there have been a lot of problems in this country. The civil service happened to be the backbone of any nation. But now it has been bedeviled with what? Corruption. And that is a big problem. It's a big problem. Now, let me give an example. In the civil service structure today, we have falsification of age. We have falsification of academic certificate. We have those that are there who don't want to even retire based on the civil service rule. So when we are talking about meritocracy in the civil service, it has been compromised in Nigeria. So that's a big problem for now. Now we are having year in, year out, we are turning out millions of graduates. There are no jobs for them. So the tendency is there for those that are in the civil service not to be willing to retire, not to be willing to leave the job, so that there can be what we call new entrants. So I think that is what is actually propelling the idea called job racketeering. Because when you are talking about those job racketeers, they are syndicates who exploit desperate job seekers and often promise their victim with fake job vacancies. This syndicate usually float what we call online media platform with fake adverts in order to dupe unsuspecting job applicants. So in Nigeria today, there is a big problem when we are talking about job. There are no jobs for now because Nigeria is not an industrialized nation. We are only a consumption nation, and there is the problem on ground. A big problem on ground. Human capital development in Nigeria is low. When we are talking about human capital development, you are talking about investment in education. Is it not rather sad? We have graduates in this country, yet there is no job for them. Let me give you a simple analysis. Let's assume we are having 1 million graduates, and these graduates, they are gainfully employed into the civil service, or they are self-employed. Now, they have to pay their tax as a civil responsibility. Let's assume they are paying 1 naira as tax. What will that amount to? 1 naira multiplied by 1 million persons will give you what? 1 million naira, and it's going to stimulate economic growth. But here we are having 1 million unemployed graduates. What are they going to contribute? 0 naira. So 0 naira multiplied by 1 million, what will it give you? It gives you 0. That shows that the country is losing. How do we now streamline it? There is going to be a lot of problems. When you are trying to streamline, fine, you want to reduce the cost of governance. But what about the cost? it will affect certain persons because certain persons are bound to lose their jobs.
Okay.
And nobody wants to lose his or her job presently because of the high level of inflation in the country.
Okay, before we turn to public service now, because that's really like the bone of contention for this morning, what happens to creating, jobs for yourself? Because I know of graduates, even masters, degree holders, that have created jobs for themselves, employment for themselves because of lack of jobs in the country. Can that not fly?
Sometimes it brings what we call innovation. Sometimes unemployment brings what we call ideas. It creates ideas indirectly.
Okay.
Because you need food for survival.
Okay.
You need money to spend. So the job is not there. Sometimes you now sit down. How do I provide job for myself? So indirectly I'm saying that unemployment sometimes stimulates what we call or create what we call ideas. So there is nothing wrong if you want to be self-employed. There is nothing as good as being a boss of your own. There is nothing as good as that. But not every one of us will be opportune to become boss of our own, to become CEOs. So we need jobs. But the problem we're having in this country is this. The government has failed in creating an enabling environment whereby industries can be established. Do you know what politicians are doing now these days? They build hotels. That was why I was not surprised the other time when one of the government aid was saying that prostitutes have to pay tax. Is that not derogatory and disgusting? You are not talking about how do we build industries and business firms in Nigeria. You are talking that prostitutes will henceforth be paying tax. Why? Because most of these politicians, they build hotels. They are more involved in the service sector. I'm not saying that building hotels is bad, but we don't need that in this country. When you look at Nigeria as a country, it is more of a religious country, though we are not godly. But what we need is what? Building of industries. These politicians, they fail to build industries. They are more interested in building what called hotels. And you are seeing one of them saying that very soon, prostitutes, called girls, will be paying tax. Do you add it to your GDP? Prostitution happens to be the longest profession in the world, but you cannot compute it as part of your GDP as a nation.
It's a sad one, really. Now let's turn to the issue of appointment in Nigeria. Some Nigerians and even analysts have argued so much to say that we had better appointment. I mean, right from 1960 when we gained independence, First Republic 1963, Second Republic 79, Third Republic 83, and of course Fourth Republic 1999. Compared to what we have seen, maybe in the last 10-15 years, they are saying appointment now is based on loyalty rather than merit. And that's why governance is not working. Do you agree with that?
Is our economy working? Rather than meritocracy, what we have done is the tribalism, religious sentiment. When it comes to issue of appointment, political appointment, when it comes to issue of giving employment to people, based on what? Religious affiliation, based on what? Tribal leanings. It does not work well. There is one thing I like about Lee Kuan Yew of Singapore. He transformed Singapore from a third world country to a fourth world country. And there are three things he used. One, meritocracy. Two, pragmatism. And three, honesty. Nigeria got it all wrong because we have allowed tribal sentiment and religious sentiment to overshadow our thinking faculty. And that's a big problem. When we are talking about merit, we have those that are intellectually sound and capable. Look at the media industry. The CEOs are interested in people that are really sound when it comes to issue of delivery. You must not compromise. But in the civil service structure, what happened now? There's a lot of compromise. Political patronage is there. So the thing is not working. We are even having ministries, departments, and agencies of government today that do not generate revenue for the country. Is that not a problem? Ministries, departments, and agencies of government must generate revenue if we want to stimulate what we call economic growth. We are getting it wrong in this country. Then the quota system. In the civil service, that quota system has become a problem in this country. Even in the issue of admission, do we not have admission racketeering? The quota system has become a problem. And that is what has overshadowed meritocracy in the civil service structure in Nigeria. It's a big problem. We are no longer interested in meritocracy again. What we are interested in is what? Political loyalty, political patronage. That's a big problem. So when you look at the economy of Nigeria, it's not actually working as expected because we have failed in that regard. You have to employ people based on merit, not based on tribal sentiment, not based on religious sentiment, not based on political patronage or party because you want to please someone. That is why the capitalist economy in the West is stronger than that of Africa, but there is no compromise. When there is job advert, you come with your credentials. There is a committee that will veto it, vet it, look at it. You know, there is a lot of what we call fake certificates among civil servants. Have you not heard about it before?
And some resigned recently because of, certificate forgery.
That must be prosecution, so that we serve as a deterrent. They defrauded us. It's not fair. This is not how to rule the civil service. Duplication of what? Offices. Too many duplication. That is why the cost of governance in Nigeria is so high. 70% of our resources, financial resources, goes for where? In taking care of what? The civil service. And also political appointees. 30% is now left for what? Capital development. So when you are talking about capital development, you are talking about road infrastructure, building of bridges, building of seaport, airport, investing in the education, investing in the healthcare delivery system. So there is a problem on ground in Nigeria. So what we need is what? Civil service reform. And when there is going to be reform, some people are bound to lose their job. But it must be for national interest. There is what we call vested public interest, or what we call overriding public interest. So, and which must be supreme.
Okay, let's start an instance now. There was a time Malam Nasir El-Rufai was shortlisted for a ministerial slot in 2023. But at the end of the day, it could not pass the screening exercise because the Senate said because of some security issues, they cannot, pass him. So now, Ina came out recently to say that this is because of some of the issues that he thinks he has with the president. He said he thinks the president had something to do with it because according to him, he's not a man that will bow to anything that is not right. That will not benefit the country. What do you make of that? Because sometimes it was beginning to look like, okay, maybe Nasir El-Rufai will not listen to the president on certain things, and that was why the Senate did not pass him, to become a minister for the country.
The president actually nominated Malam Nasir El-Rufai, the former executive governor of Kaduna State. He was actually nominated, but his nomination was stepped down on the floor of the Senate as a result of what? DSS report. So when we are talking about political appointments in this country, it must be subjected under scrutiny by the Department of State Services to know whether this person has committed a criminal offense before, to know if this person is actually a Nigerian, to know if this person has what we call dual citizenship based on the Constitution. So if the Senate decided to step down his nomination based on security report, it's not the fault of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCF.
I think it was political in any way.
Whether you say it was political or not, when you are talking about Malam Nasir El-Rufai, is synonymous with terrorism.
Can you prove that?
The fact is there.
In what sense?
Mercenary fighters. They were the one that imported it. For 8 good years, there was no peace in Kaduna State. He's on the run now. Malam Nasir El-Rufai is on the run. The same thing also applies to Sheikh Ahmad Gumi. Let us call a spade a spade. National interest. We are talking about national security. Why will some group of persons hold this country to ransom because of their own personal ambition and personal interest? Was I the one that was of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? When you say you are the giant of Africa, your economy must be adjudged to be the strongest in Africa. Your currency, Your current system must be adjudged to be the best in Africa. System must be adjudged to be the best in Africa. But what are we having? Look at the civil service structure. Be dealing with what? With corruption. Dealing with what? With corruption. It is not easy for the president or the governor. It is not easy for the president or the governor to steal public funds without connivance from the civil service. Funds without connivance from the civil service, especially director of finance. This is what we know. So when we are talking about civil servants, how many of them today are actually honest? How many of them today are willing to build the nation? Most of them have compromised. They have compromised. That is why we lost it as a nation. There's a problem. We are talking about job racketeers now. Those job racketeers, they are syndicates. They struggle to survive. That is why they decided to go into fraud, to defraud unsuspecting job applicants. I'm not saying that it is morally justified. No, but I'm just trying to tell you the causality effect of job racketeering in this country and the problem of quota system. We have admission racketeering too. They're in the civil service. The same thing also applies in the Nigerian Armed Forces too. Paramilitary institution, quota system between the north and the south. Not even purely based on meritocracy.
What about the judiciary system now? Many have also argued that these appointments are also based on who are appointing them now.
Now, there is one thing you must know, that we have what we call the National Judicial Council, NJC. They are saddled with that responsibility of deciding who becomes the Chief Judge of the Federal Republic of Nigeria based on seniority. But when we are talking about the judicial system, it's into levels. We have the state high court, we have the federal high court. But sometimes in law, they say some of these courts have what we call superior jurisdiction. So we are having conflicting judgments in Nigeria. It's a problem in the judiciary. It's a big problem when we are having what we call conflicting court judgment. There is one thing I like in mathematics. Do you know what I like in mathematics? 1 + 1 = 2. It's the same all over the world. But in the judiciary, it's not like that. Conflicting court judgment. Some go to the judiciary to buy judgment. Sometimes judgment, the judge sold out his conscience. The law must not be emotional. Judges must not be sentimental. They must not be emotional. Look at the symbol of the legal profession, a woman that is blindfolded. What does that mean? There must be justice for all. The judge must be impartial. But here today we are having what we call biased judgment. We are having what we call conflicting judgment. So there is a big problem on ground. So when we are talking about the judiciary too, sometimes we say they are also part of the civil service structure of the country. But there is a big problem on ground. The issue of meritocracy that has been compromised is a big problem. Nothing as good as merit. A genius is a genius. A genius is someone that makes complex problem simple. That's a genius for you. The problem is so complex, but the genius will come and make it to become what? Simple. But look at what we are having in the civil service structure in Nigeria today. Corruption has destroyed the civil service. Not just that alone. Look at the issue of the Nigerian Armed Forces. There is high-level corruption. That is what has affected national security too. Though we can say they are not part of the civil service structure, because they are specialized structure. When you are talking about the Nigerian Armed Forces, they are not part of the civil service. But the civil service of any nation happen to be the backbone of the economy, aside micro and small scale businesses. But it's rather sad and unfortunate that in this country, what do we have? We have undermined the civil service structure in this country. It wasn't like that before. But politicians decided to introduce what we call political patronage into the civil service. It's not like that before. It wasn't like that before. The civil service is supposed to be independent. It's supposed to be institutionalized. That is how it's supposed to be. But now it's not like that. What we're having is these governors coming, trying to recruit their own men. They will recruit their own men. The same thing applies to the president too. It's not good. It's not supposed to be that. The day you apply for a job and you are given that job, you know the number of years you are going to spend before retiring. It's there, it's fixed. But on a daily basis, people are retiring. In the civil service structure today, like ASU, do you know ASU is complaining? They are being overburdened. When I was young, a professor was entitled to 2 graduate assistants. Does this apply today in the university? No! Everything has been monetized. It has been monetized. When Europeans were here in UI, University of Ibadan, Europeans that were professors there, they were attached to what? 2 graduate assistants. They were there just to assist them. But here in this country, there is nothing like that anymore. That is why you see a lot of lecturers dying. Some of them are sick. The workload is too much on them. It's unbearable. That is why some of them want to leave the shores of this country. Who told you that there are no job vacancies in the civil service? There are. Too evil. You go for the lesser evil, although evil is not good. He has an issue. If you are fighting for justice in this country, you must be a just man.
Don't say you said it's performing. If you need to go online so that you can see for yourself. A lot of persons are giving him the accolades and appraisal to say that he's doing much more better than the past Minister of Interior compared to what they've seen in Nigeria. A lot of persons 5-10 years ago, they don't even know who the Minister of Interior is because they are not hearing so much about that ministry. But now, Olubibitijojo, you see him in the news.
How much can you get the Nigerian passport now?
Yes, the price has gone up.
Is it supposed to be like that?
I mean, you tell me.
It was a conspiracy.
Okay.
When Nigerians were willing to leave the shores of their fatherland for greener pastures, and they felt that the only way to do it is for them to increase the Nigerian passport. Before then, there was wanting 200 million people with a fake university certificate. He deceived the president. He deceived the nation. He deceived the Senate committee that was in charge of screening him. Is it me fair? Is that a good idea? No matter whatever he has done that is good, all end with what? With shame.
What about the Minister of Power? Ofino. How well do you think he's performing?
Say Minister of Power
yes.
that goes around with a power bank. When we are talking about Minister of Power, is he supposed to be in charge of that ministry? Somebody that read accounting and economics. We are getting it wrong in this country. They gave him an appointment because of political patronage. He was given that ministry because of what? Political patronage. And we are talking about meritocracy. There's a problem in this country. Nigeria is not a failed nation, but we have a failed government in the past and a failing government in the present. That's an issue on ground. So we have to be frank and sincere to ourselves. When we are talking about the power sector, it's into 3. We have generation, transmission, and distribution. And you can see that the power sector in Nigeria is partially what? Deregulated. It has been partially what? There's deregulation presently. We have the GENCOs. We have the Transcos, then we have what we call the DISCOs, who is in charge of distribution. But what about the generation? Do you know South Africa, as it is today, South Africa megawatts of electricity. But Nigeria generates less than 5,000 megawatts out of Africa.
But the grid is old.
Even though there are old infrastructures in there, you can generate electricity from different ways. Okay. You can generate electricity from hydro, that is water. You can generate electricity from wind. You can generate electricity from solar. You can generate electricity from what we call geothermal. You can generate electricity from coal. It's there. Short-sighted. They're short-sighted. They don't care about the human welfare. They are less concerned. Nature has blessed this country abundantly. Nature has been so fair to us. There is no resources Nigeria don't have. But the only problem we have is this. We don't have leaders that are humane, who believe in human dignity. And that has been a problem. So when we are talking about Adelabu,
purpose, not where opportunity is auctioned to the highest bidder. Thank you, Fino. Ignatius and Boselime for being a part of this discussion.
Thank you for having me
this morning. Thank you so much. All right, the strength of any nation lies in the integrity of its systems and the fairness of its opportunities. Amoluayemi Adelako, and this has been the big story. Until next time, let's keep holding the system accountable and keep merit alive. Please stay with us because Trend Watch will come up soon.
Need a professional space to bring your vision to life? Dominion Television Studios offers state-of-the-art facilities perfect for your next broadcast, commercial, corporate video, or live event. With flexible rental options, cutting-edge equipment, and a supportive team, we provide the perfect environment for high-quality productions. Unleash your creativity. For bookings, email us at marketing@dominion.org.ng. Call us on 0705 506 1061 or 0916 101 1061. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Dominion Broadcast and on X at DominionCast. Book your space today. Dominion Television, your channel of choice.
And thank you for staying tuned to us on Daybreak Live today. Of course, something quite important also is making the rounds, and that's talking about Trend Watch today. What we have on Trend Watch is EFCC moves 3 alleged vote buyers in Anambra governorship election to Enugu. That's the big story on the Trend Watch today, because there's always a big story across everywhere. So the big story now is that EFCC is moving 3 alleged vote buyers in Anambra governorship election to Enugu. So the question has been that why the movement? I mean, that would be the the no-brainer, easy to get knee-jerk reaction or question to that, to say, why are they moving them? To where? To do what? Exactly why? And all of the why. So, Oluwayemi, this is the case of vote buying. This is not the first time we're seeing this in the country. We've also seen this in many elections. There were alleged case of vote buying, even in this last election on Saturday, how that they said some persons, in fact, we have some of the pictures of those people with money. But the question is, if you get the person that is paying the money, you should also get the person that is sponsoring those people, because these monies just don't get out of the dust. You just say you just saw the money on the ground and then you want to give people. It was actually bankrolled by somebody in the political space. So who exactly should be accountable? Not just these guys. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. But what do you make of this? Okay,
I think I have issues with the fact that at a point INEC said there were no cases of vote buying. So I'm shocked to see that they actually caught 3 persons and then now they want to transfer them to Enugu, because INEC came out to say, oh, we didn't see any case of vote buying during the election. So why are we saying that we need to work against this before 2027 general elections? But then we saw video. I actually saw a particular video where people received cash and then a certain drink and then snack. This is his first election, and of course Nigerians are expecting more from him come 2027. So if he cannot undo vote buying for Anambra, I mean, a lot of persons will question whether he can actually undo the general elections. Of course, we have another election coming up in Osun State, that's 2026. So it's a lot to unpack. So we've seen cases of vote buying, and I think it's going to be very difficult to end vote buying in Nigeria. Why? Because the concept of poverty, weaponized poverty. You see people who collect as low as 3,000 naira just so they can feed Imagine if you sell your future for 3,000 naira. People collected drinks and snacks that, had together. I don't think it's up to 1.5. And then they voted for somebody because of that. It is sad. So before we can actually end vote buying in Nigeria, we must put a stop or maybe make the economy, better for the people. So when people can afford the basic things, it becomes difficult for you to talk them into, maybe taking 5,000 out to vote for somebody. In 2024, that was the last year. I was working. That was during the Ondo state election, and then we saw a particular woman, in one of the rural areas. She said that we've collected money and we voted, and we're able to cook a pot of soup. And the daughter was trying to give her the eye of, Mama, stop this that you are saying. You can implicate us. But then she said what she said. So it has gotten really bad. So if INEC said no cases of vote buying, but then 3 people were arrested, can they balance it? I mean,
yeah. Also, but let's just take a few comments. Right on to check. Okay, that's the picture of one of the cases.
Yeah, the man I spoke about.
Yes. Yeah. So across these says just 3. They didn't do their job very well. Maybe this is just to say that there's more. This says EFCC intensifying vote buying probes post-election cycle. That's another conversation to talk about.
And Kenneth, you say they should mention their sponsors. Even if they mention their sponsors, are we going to know those people? So we don't release the names, to the public.
I think it's also important that we do what we call voter education. Yes, even as an outfit, as a media outfit. Now, I went into checking the constitution as to what the offenses and the penalty would be. So if you pay money to any other person for bribery at any election, the penalty is that on conviction to a maximum fine of 500,000 naira or 12 months imprisonment or both. That's according to section 124, 2010. That's according to the reference.
How effective is that law that you're reading?
That's one. Let me take the other so we can just quickly wrap up on that. So receiving any money or gift for voting or to refrain from voting at any election, attracts a maximum fine of 500,000 naira or imprisonment or 12 months or both, that kind of thing. But again, my question is, why are you saying or? All of these ors is they are the loopholes in the system. So if you say or, so it means the person can pay 500 and go.
See, the or is not even the problem, Manu. The problem is these laws, are they working? This is not the first time that they will arrest
but that's why we need to also educate the public.
It becomes counterproductive. That's why we're even talking about insecurity. You arrest the bandit, you kill them, but you don't talk about their sponsors. It's like those issues will still stay. So it won't work at the end of the day. So the political parties, the party agents, I'm very sure that most of them were there on the scene, but they were not arrested. So it's a lot to undo, really.
Yeah,
honestly.
And that's how much would go. That's how far we'll take today on Daybreak generally today. Thank you very much for joining us. So remember that you have a responsibility to ensuring that Nigeria becomes a great nation. It is mine just as much as it is yours. My name is Anulu. Thank you very much for joining us.
All right, thank you for being a part of the program. Do well to join us tomorrow, same time, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Please, we all have a responsibility to make this country work. My name is Obayemi Adela. I'm saying good morning.